Hello, I'm Sue, and I'm here to talk to you about your college admissions interview. I graduated from Emory University this past year, and although I never did an interview when I was applying, I have done quite a bit of interviews as an alumni. And let me tell you that so many students miss out on the basics. So here are 15 do's and don'ts on your college interview so you make a good first impression. The first thing is to have an elevator pitch. Practice this as much as you can and make sure that it has all the basics. So many students just don't know how to introduce themselves, and it's a bad start from the beginning if you don't know how. The basics for me is just your name, your school, what you do for fun, what are your extracurricular activities, and just some of your experience, and then finally your goal. It should be short, definitely under 2 minutes. So here is an example. Hello, my name is Sue. I am from blah blah high school. I am passionate about X as shown in my involvement in Z extracurricular club. In my spare time, I do this, this, and this. I am looking forward to sharing my experience with you so that X school can get to know me better. Easy, short, boom, and then you get into the interview. The key thing here is that if you say a lot of great things and examples of what you like to do, then your interviewer will ask you about that instead of some of the harder questions. And you'll be able to talk about something that you enjoy talking about and that you are good at talking about. The second tip is know the school. Know whatever college or department you're applying to, know the major you're applying to, know the opportunities, know the city that it's in, just know as much as you can. It's really easy now with the internet, just Google as much as you can, watch videos like the videos I have about my school or about other people's schools. One student I had, she looked up a very specific course that she wanted to take, and then a very specific course outside of her major that was also interesting to her. And that to me showed that she had clearly looked into what was popular and what was necessary for her major. I had another student did this awesome thing. She had found an Instagram or Facebook page, I can't remember, of a specific club at our school that did what she wanted to do. And so she had done something very similar in high school and she wanted something the same in college, and she had found that club on Instagram. And that to me is so awesome. So it's very easy to look up things about the school, and I highly recommend you do it so that it's not awkward and it's not obvious that you don't know about the school. Tip number 3 is to know your experiences. For me, before I do an interview, I like to sit down and write a list of all the experiences I have, whether it be my involvement, my jobs, anything of that nature, and I like to read it before the interview. When you're in an interview, they will ask you about a situation that you've been in, and the worst thing you can do is say, I've never been in that situation. And believe me, I've had students who say that. It's really embarrassing to say that you've never been in a situation. For example, if I asked, describe a time you had to make a hard choice. If you say I've never made a hard choice, that's just not believable. That to me just shows that you're trying to avoid the question and you don't want to answer it. And that you're lying because there's no way that you've never been in that situation. Remember to have all your experiences and good stories that you can talk about thoroughly before your interview so that it's as seamless as possible. Tip number 4 is to talk about things outside of your application. An application is just a piece of paper, honestly, and you can come across pretty bland there. I think the interview is your chance to shine, to prove that you're a fully well-developed person that would be a great fit in that school, and you want to show this as much as you possibly can to the interviewer. Tip 5 is to have a vision for yourself at the school. It doesn't have to be complete, and by no means do you have to follow through with it, but I think having a vision and being able to show that you would really fit in that school makes you a person who thinks in the future, who shows your dedication to the school. Tip 6 is to explain. Now, this is such a big pet peeve of mine when students just don't explain what they're thinking about, what they're talking about, and I just get lost and I have to sort of prod them to answer more. If you ever catch yourself giving one word or a phrase of an answer, you're doing it wrong. If I ask you who is your inspiration and you say, Barack Obama or my mom, and that's it, you have to explain and say why you've chosen that person. And that goes for almost all of the questions. These questions are designed to understand you more. And by saying one word, it's just proving to the interviewer that you don't care about explaining yourself and you don't care what they think about you. Tip number 7 is to have digital manners. This year, because of COVID, we are having all of our interviews on Zoom and not meeting in person. Just some of the basics, have a clean background. Don't be scrolling or typing on the computer. It's quite obvious to us if you're doing that, so just don't do that. And make sure that you're in the camera. I want to see your face. I want to see you talking. So be sure to follow all of those. And then tip 8, which is for any interview ever, just be presentable, be professional. Send a thank you email afterwards, be courteous, and be polite. Now we're going to go into some of the don'ts. Tip number 9, don't be late. I think this is common for anything. If you're going to be late, make sure to let them know, but otherwise I would go 5-10 minutes early. If you're meeting in person or if you're going on Zoom, make sure that you have everything set up beforehand. Tip 10, don't worry about saying the right answer. Believe me, there isn't any right answer. We just want to get to know you. Please just explain yourself thoroughly. And we love getting unique answers. It makes it more fun for us and it makes you seem more interesting. Tip number 11, don't get too political or controversial. I hate saying this because I like it when people show a lot of their personality and things that are unique. But if you say something that could rub the wrong way, it could just make the entire interview turn sour. The thing is that a lot of issues today are really sensitive, and if you bring that into the interview, you might not be able to reverse the tide that you've created. I've had students say things, and even though I agree with them, I know that there are other people who would not agree with them. And so, they've been lucky that I've just been able to nod along and, show support for them. But I know not every interviewer will do this. At the best case scenario, I will just move the conversation along and I won't write what you said in the report. I don't know if every interviewer will be that generous. I can't imagine what would happen if you said something controversial and the interviewer firmly agreed with the opposite. So just be safe and avoid it altogether. Tip 12 is to not get too comfortable. This is something that I've had to tell myself before every interview that I conduct. I'm the youngest alumni because I graduated this past year, and so a lot of the students that I'm interviewing are just not that much younger than me. And because of that, people get so casual with me. They get comfortable, and although I want to create an environment where the applicants aren't stressed out, I don't think it's fair that people talk to me like I'm their friend or their teammate or their sister. I'm here to judge their fit for the school. So don't get too casual. Be sure to be formal and polite all the way through. Tip 13 is to not try to sound smart. I don't know what it is about, applying to college. You want to feel as smart as possible, but it's so obvious and unnatural when people say things that they don't really know what they're talking about or using vocabulary words that they learned earlier that week. At best, you just sound obnoxious or clueless. I think you should just stick to what you know. If you don't know something, just ask clarifying questions and just say, that's not something I'm very familiar with, and that's fine. Another tip is not to talk about your scores or GPA. The truth is, as an alumni admissions interviewer, I don't care. I just don't care. For me, it's not to judge whether your GPA hits the mark. I'm here to judge if you fit into the overall network and environment of the school. So don't tell me, I don't care. The last tip is to ask good questions. Specifically, don't ask questions that I or you can Google. You should always ask questions, and particularly you should ask about their specific experience as an alumni and as a student at their school. But don't ask something that you can Google. For instance, don't ask about, can you major in something? It just shows that you didn't do your research. So make sure that you think of thoughtful questions before the interview begins, and during the interview, if you think of any questions, if it's appropriate, ask them during the interview or jot it down so that you can ask them later after the interview. Okay, so that's all 15 of my tips of do's and don'ts in your college interview. If you have any more, please write them down below and I will hopefully answer all of them. I wish you all good luck in your college admissions process, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Also, just a note, just because you didn't get an interview doesn't mean that we're not considering you as an applicant. It just means that the time and availability of all the alumni wasn't there. So don't freak out. I didn't get an interview and I got into my dream school, so you can do this.